Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. So we're going to move on to day 8 now. We did all of day 7 yesterday in one day. I I should be able to get day 8 done today. I should. We're doing the first one now, definitely. But I got them out for Judge Fleischer's courtroom, and then we'll see if I fall asleep, which is entirely possible. Got a lot to do today, though, but it's all right. My coffee is almost here. So I think we still have the fingerprint expert still on the stand, maybe? I think. I'm not 100% sure. Nope, she was done, and they put someone else on the stand. Oh, can't remember. It was yesterday. Well, we'll find out any minute now. Um, the the defense attorney's guy's still not here today, and I think we're missing some of the family again today too. But yeah, let's get started. All rise. All rise. Any second now, guys. Maybe this is a prequel to what we're about to watch. Slow and steady. I wonder if these are just observers. I wonder who they are.
Thank you. Everyone may be seated. We're on the record in State versus Kelly, CR 2023-026. The record will show the presence of all the jurors, counsel, and the defendant. The witness is stepping forward. Yeah, come on up. Thanks. You can have a seat.
Is this the sheriff?
And just to remind you, as I remind all witnesses after an evening adjournment, you're still under oath. Okay. Thank you, sir. I believe we were about to start the cross-examination. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Sergeant.
Good morning.
You're in civies today.
Yes.
So just to recap, you seem to have a lot of experience, 10 years supervision, correct?
Correct.
15 years as a law enforcement officer, 2 years of which was in detention.
17 total.
So it's a total of 17.
15 as a sworn or peace officer and 2 as a detention officer.
Okay. Thank you for the correction. My total was off on the total was 15 plus the 2. Okay. And you've had all kinds of training and everything, correct?
I have.
You know, firearms, you qualify firearms every year?
Do I qualify for?
Yeah.
Yes,
Have you been an instructor in firearms at all?
for 2 years.
Okay. And at this time, you were, though, working in admin, you said. What is that? What did you do there?
In December 2022, I was assigned as the administrative sergeant / training coordinator. That was my position during the incident.
Okay, and so what's the admin part about?
Admin sergeant is, it's a position within the sheriff's office that takes care of administrative duties. Again, one of them being training coordinator, which I ensure that all officers are up to par with their training or yearly training as per AC Post guidelines. One of the other things that I did during that time was be in charge or supervise the school resource officers and the DARE officer as well. That's another duty of the administrative sergeant. And as a general instructor, I also ensure that other general instructors within the department have proper lesson plans and training material when any sort of a training was required, and also scheduling training for detectives, officers, deputies, eventually also detention personnel. And again, that's what I can remember at this point.
Thank you for that. And how long were you in that position?
I was there since December 2022, and I went back to the road December 2023.
Okay, so all of December, oh no, the end of December, so all of 23 pretty much, so 1 year.
Yes,
And in January 30th, that would have been your role at that time as far as your duties, correct?
correct.
But whether it's low in staff or people were tied up for whatever reason, you offered assistance in this case, correct?
I was out on the road patrolling at that point.
Okay, so, but your job was not a patrol officer, correct? At that time,
Could you repeat the question for me?
your job at that time was not patrol,
I was not assigned to the patrol division.
right? But you signed in on this call when you heard what the nature of the call was and knowing the availability of everybody, correct?
Yes,
Okay, I just wanted to get that straight. So you know how important it is, training, right?
yes,
Protocol, procedures. These are things that are important for you, right?
correct.
And the department and everyone that works as in law enforcement, right?
Yes,
Matter of fact, it's so important that it's important to have ongoing training all the time in different areas of your job set, right?
yes.
Okay. And it starts with your original training when you became a police officer. How long were you in your training to become a?
My basic academy was a total of 17 weeks.
And although you've been away from that for at the time of this offense and now for, quite a lot of years, but you do too also go to training and keep these skills and procedures updated, correct?
Yes,
All right. And there's a reasons for protocol training of procedures. There are good reasons why you are trained in this and why you should follow it, correct?
yes,
I mean, you just can't be a cowboy and approach the scene the way you want. You're supposed to approach it through your training skills and protocol and through your supervisor, correct?
yes.
Okay, it's not a trick question. Okay,
I'm just trying to listen to everything you're saying.
that's fine. And if you don't understand me, just let me know, okay? But what I'm saying is, crime scene. There is a training set of guidelines out there that you've been trained on, and everyone else that's in your department or any law enforcement department, a protocol, what to follow, what to do, right?
Correct.
Okay. You wouldn't want someone just to walk through a crime scene and tamper with it and alter evidence, right?
No,
Okay. So there's a reason for the procedures on how to handle it. Is that right?
yes.
Okay. And we're going to get back to that.
Is there a reason for these questions? These are all common sense.
What I'd like to know is I heard something that you said yesterday, and you were referencing that you felt that you, in your mind, had probable cause that you wanted to get a search warrant. And you said it pretty early in the process of everything. So my question to you is, you formed an opinion that Mr. Kelly might be a suspect in this case. And to the point that it wasn't just suspicious, in your mind, it was enough to get a search warrant, right?
Correct.
I got the answer to this one. There was a dead body on his property.
Which rises to the next level of probable cause, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like you to educate these jurors on why you thought at that moment that you had probable cause when you made that comment that you were going to get a search warrant.
Your Honor, objection.
Dead
This has already
body.
been ruled on by the court, and this
I'm
is
not
confusing
challenging
for the
the-
jury.
Sorry. I'm not challenging I'm challenging the reasoning that gets us in this court, why he led to the arrest. I don't have a motion to challenge the probable cause. I just want to know why he, who testified yesterday, thought he had enough evidence. What was the evidence?
And Your Honor, I don't think probable cause is the same as a search warrant, probable cause for a search warrant. I think this is confusing for the jury, and the court's already ruled on all of these issues, the search warrant and the probable cause.
It was his testifying statement.
Overruled, the witness can answer.
Thank you, Judge. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so again, the day of January 30th, 2023, I learned about the incident early in the afternoon, 2:30, 3 p.m. And again, at the 100 Sagebrush or 100 Willow Circle, there was reports of an active shooter. That was the report I received. That's the information I had.
Okay, let me ask you something along that line. We'll kind of break this down so you're not speaking in a narrative format. So you have an active shooter. It was at the same location that you're hearing this second call, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And is it true that the victim was Mr. Kelly through, however it got to your department? He was the complainant or the victim in the case, correct?
he was the reporting party initially.
Okay.
No, I will probably make a correction to that. The reporting party to the sheriff's office was United States Border Patrol authorities who had received the call from Mr. Kelly.
Okay, so then that makes him the potential victim, the caller, the complainant.
The complainant and reporting party, yes.
Reporting party was the the one that your department heard was Border Patrol. But it
Correct.
was about a person complaining of shots being fired at his home, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so you learned that Kelly was reporting shots fired on his property, a shot fired on his property, correct?
the report I remember was the complainant reporting he was being fired at and possibly he returned fire.
Possibly going to return fire, right?
Possibly returned fire. Again, the details of the call, I was not present when he called Border Patrol.
So you think, based on the info you got, which you could only account for what you heard, correct?
Correct,
That he had already returned fire, possibly.
possibly.
So this is forming in your head, right?
Yes,
And so did you anywhere later learn that when he made the call that he hadn't stepped out of his house yet to even try to return fire somewhere?
those details I don't have, no.
Okay, so you don't know that today. Do you know that now?
I do know that he chased down the group. That's my
Okay.
understanding.
Where did you get Chase?
From the call received, again, that's a call we received from Border Patrol.
Okay. And so we also have a possible change of definition here. Did you later learn that all he did was went in the direction, checked out his barn, checking out his animals, Did you learn that later, or do you still believe he chased after him? Today, do you believe your information shows that he chased after them?
My information, my belief was that he went after these subjects, yes.
Was that part of your calculation on your determination that Mr. Kelly might have done this?
Again, that's the information I received initially. I did not get any other details contradicting that.
All right. All right, so just a recap of your initial call from earlier and see if there's anything missing, okay? Is that there was an active shooter, he was possibly fired at and returned fire. And then that he went and chased after them. Does that sum up what you heard from the
That's some of
earlier?
the information I heard, yes.
Okay, nothing else is missing. And that's when you arrived at this location at this time, this is in the back of your mind, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What else leads you in this direction? Is there anything about that that makes them guilty?
The dead body.
Could you repeat that question?
Is there anything about that that makes them responsible for committing a crime?
Not referring to the initial call, no, not at that point.
Okay. What happens next that you come to this conclusion?
Again, do you want me to start from the time I received the call on the radio and continue, or?
Whatever formed your opinion that you believe there was enough probable cause to get a search warrant and that he was a suspect in your mind.
But the determination of a search warrant is not made by me.
But you made a comment yesterday about getting them out of the house so you can get a search warrant. And so you already formed that opinion based on your testimony. And I'm trying to figure out why you believe he was a suspect. What other evidence would happen next? You said your earlier events of what you heard. Then you arrive at this scene. Tell me what added to that to make you believe this.
Okay, the search warrant was obtained on probable cause that a crime had been committed at the property. I never made any instruction to any of the deputies to arrest Mr. Kelly as far as being a suspect.
Okay, so it's okay to search a victim's home with a search warrant if the crime is outside at over 100 yards, 115 yards away from the home?
Objection form.
Is that,
Overruled.
go ahead.
Again, I will start to provide the details so the jury can understand why I made that determination during my investigation. So yes, listening to the previous call, the information received, again, I was working Operation Stone Garden, which is an opportunity that we get as police officers or sheriff deputies to be out there and patrol the areas of the county, which I'm still a peace officer and in full authority. I can still make traffic stops, arrests, just be a police officer. So I received a call of another Border Patrol agent. At this point, I don't know who the person was. United States Border Patrol contacts the sheriff's office again, saying that the same individual that had called from 100 Sagebrush or 100 Willow Circle called saying that he had struck something.
Okay, let's talk about that. So you get dispatched to tell you that he had struck something. And so therefore, that sounds like almost a possible confession, right? An admission of shooting someone could be an admission of a crime, correct?
I never heard the word shooting.
Okay, so you had information that says he had struck something. That was the transmission, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When you see a bullet hole later, then you put it together that maybe he admitted to shooting.
That was a suspicion I had at the time, yes.
And did you later learn that the actual communication that was taken from the Border Patrol was something may have been struck. Different meaning, isn't it?
I never learned that, no.
Didn't know that.
No.
So right away, you're formed an opinion because of information that wasn't accurate. Would you agree if that's true?
The information I had, that's the opinion I formed with what I had.
Communication is always important in your job, isn't it?
Yes.
So you add, he had struck something and add that to a bullet hole, and you might have a suspect. Possible?
I had a crime scene at that point.
Well, and that gives you a possible suspect in your mind, or that didn't faze you at all?
At that point, Mr. Kelly was only an investigative lead. Again, I never said he was a suspect, and he was free to be in the house. Again, we never handcuffed him, we never detained him. I had a crime scene, and we needed to process that crime scene.
Well, do you know that he wasn't allowed in his house when he asked for a jacket or a glass of water?
I wasn't present when he
Okay.
was with the other deputies.
So you can't say that then. You don't know that. You don't know whether he was allowed to be go anywhere.
For safety, I will think he was not allowed to do that.
Okay, so now that makes him not a victim, but a potential suspect, right?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. And so all you know now is some poor communications and that there's a man about 115 yards away from this house with that's dead, deceased, with a bullet hole, correct?
Objection form and argumentative.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so what else formed your opinion? You were moving along with that.
Again, I heard the call about the person calling back that he, again, the information I received was that he had struck something. And based on the earlier call of an active shooter, the complainant, Mr. Kelly, was also found carrying a rifle during the interaction the deputies had with him on the previous call. And I was in the area of Highway 82 by the airport, which is pretty close to the Keno Springs residential area. Being that we had reports of an active shooter earlier, now we have somebody claiming someone was struck. The closest deputy was myself and Deputy Rafael Lopez. Again, one of my jobs and my duties is to preserve life and property.
Well,
So
let me stop you there because you had information someone was struck. It was, he had struck something. Let's just make it clear. That was your information.
yes,
Okay. So that's changes the tone of that. I just want to make sure the jurors understand why you think this versus what was the real communication that was provided originally from a Border Patrol agent by the name of Jeremy.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So you get out there.
correct. I respond, being that I'm one of the closest units. I do not remember where the other deputies were or where the actual patrol sergeant at that point was at. So myself and Deputy Lopez respond. Deputy Lopez was a lot closer than I was, so he got there first. We make.
Okay, let me hold you right there. I'm going to break this down so keeping you from doing a narrative, okay? All right, I'm supposed to ask a question, you're supposed to answer. It's procedure.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So the fact that he had a gun earlier, and did you, and you don't know that he was in the house when a shot was fired, but my question is, do you have any reason to believe that Mr. Kelly is not allowed to have his weapon on him, especially on his property? Is there any law violation?
No, not that I know.
And if there was danger out there, including, I would assume, wouldn't it be just a proper procedure if you are a person that believes in defending yourself to be able to do that, correct?
Could you repeat the question again?
Grabbing a gun to protect him and his wife, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, is there?
No.
Okay. And you would do the same for you and your family, wouldn't you?
To protect my family?
Yes.
Yes.
And grab a gun if you needed it, if you felt that the danger rose to that level of defense needed. Hearing a shooting, hearing a bullet outside your door is a lawful reason to grab your gun to defend yourself, correct?
Your Honor, it calls for a legal conclusion.
He understands this.
He understands. I think he does.
It's
So- so
still
overall.
an okay.
To answer your specific question?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, if you have deadly force, you could use deadly force if needed, correct? In defending yourself.
All right, I'm gonna, that is an improper.
Okay. I'll withdraw that question. So I'm just saying that you have to make observations when people do actions on whether they violate the law. And I'm looking from your law enforcement perspective that there is nothing wrong with defending yourself and having your gun on you. Is that correct?
Having a gun is not a crime. no.
Okay. And if you, and I'm just saying, if there's danger out there, that makes it more reasonable that a person would have their gun on them, correct? If you know there's danger out there, is there anything unreasonable about grabbing your gun to protect yourself in event something
there's not,
happens?
no.
Okay. Now, being on a ranch, it's also reasonable that there's a lot of natural things that could harm you from the terrain, like wild animals, snakes, things like that, that having a gun on you would be okay, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And this is Arizona allows guns, right?
correct.
Okay.
Stop a second. I'm going to give a limiting instruction to the jury. So we're talking about some legal concepts with these questions. These questions are being allowed not to instruct you on the law. That's my job. These questions are being allowed because, as I understand it, the line of questioning, correct me if I'm wrong, but the line of questioning is directed towards the information that the witness had that led him to take the actions that he took later. All right? Is that fair to say?
That's accurate, Your Honor.
So we're not instructing you on the law, but that'll be my job at the end of the case. The questions are just designed to elicit testimony about the reasons why the witness took whatever actions he took in the future in connection with this investigation. All right?
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Sorry to interrupt, but
No, I
I
understand.
thought it was an appropriate instruction on this.
Thank you, Judge. So, and I'm just saying, if someone says they have a gun by itself, I'm just trying to show that you're coming up with reasons as to why you formed your opinion, and I'm trying to maybe add it all together is why you did, but I'm just trying to get there. So moving along with the
And Your
fact
Honor,
that,
objection to counsel testifying.
Well, I think she just repeated basically what I just said, so in a different way. So, but anyway, let's
moving along.
move to some questions.
Yes, sir. So what's the next thing that raised your concerns that he was the suspect and it rose to the level of becoming the suspect?
Okay, so again, I arrived at the property and make contact with Mr. Kelly. He then told us that there was a dead person in his property, made comments about that being a problem for him. He didn't want any trouble. And then we proceeded to the location where the person was found deceased.
Was he cooperative?
He was.
Okay. Would you agree finding a deceased person on your property would be very alarming?
Could be.
Would you agree, knowing what might have happened earlier and then later, all of a sudden there's a dead body, would rise that concern even greater?
It could.
Assuming he did nothing, okay? Showing no guilt to this at all, would it be fair to say it would be reasonable for him to be very concerned and trying to help you come to other alternatives why there's a dead man on his property. Is there anything unreasonable about that?
I will be guessing at that point. I wouldn't be able to answer that.
But you yesterday said that he was offering all these excuses to you, alternatives, as if he was concerned and very bothered by it, whatever your terminology was. And I can look back at my notes, but you did testify to that yesterday, didn't you?
Yes, I did. And one of the things that also made me suspect that he was nervous and trying to excuse something is that instead of calling 911 to render aid, he called Border Patrol, which will delay the response, and there's miscommunication and things of that nature. So that's another thing that also I found to believe suspicious.
Okay. He is a rancher that's been there, I don't know, a decade, whatever amount of time. And Border Patrol, the liaison program has, would you agree, has probably reached out to all the ranchers along the border to say, we're here for you, correct?
Correct.
And he's regularly discussing the trespassers and the environment of trespassers around in their communications with each other over these years, correct? Possible?
I will be guessing. I don't know what type of contact they have.
Okay. Well, would it be unreasonable to think that might have happened?
Your Honor,
Again-
calls for speculation, objection.
Overall.
Keep going, please.
Again, I don't know what type of contact the liaisons have with the ranchers at all.
They are law enforcement, correct?
Correct.
Okay. They come with guns, correct?
Correct.
And cars, patrol cars, correct?
Yes.
Okay. They have a jurisdiction along the border, correct?
Yes.
Okay. It may overlap a little bit of the sheriff's department area. And then you guys have your rules about who does what, correct? Jurisdiction wise.
Could you-
Their territory overlaps your territory as a sheriff. Would you agree to that?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And so the duties may be divided based on which one falls under which event that's happening, but that's something that you two work out on your own on who has jurisdiction if there's a common area. Correct?
Among agencies?
Yes, absolutely. The
Yes.
Border Patrol and Sheriff.
Yes.
Okay. And so Mr. Kelly called law enforcement, had a number on his card on his refrigerator, and was most comfortable getting a cell phone directly for help. And you find that to be concerning?
I find it suspicious. Yes.
Okay. So he called law enforcement, and you think sheriffs will get out there faster? Would it surprise you that Border Patrol showed up earlier on the earlier incident versus the sheriff?
Would it surprise me?
Yes.
No, they got the call first.
Okay. And so you can't sit there and say to this courtroom right now that you would have always responded quicker. That's not necessarily true. True, correct?
I never said that. No.
Okay. So it's suspicious that he called law enforcement. That's what you're telling the jurors today, right?
Again, a common citizen will usually call 911.
Exactly. Just keep cool, buddy. She's twisting everything around, and the jury sees that. A common citizen would call 911, not Border Patrol. That doesn't mean anything that she just said. Just blatantly lied.
Immediately.
A border common citizen may be trained a little bit different. Did it occur to you that way?
Again, I can't speak about that. I'll be guessing, ma'am.
Go ahead with your reasoning. What's the next thing that you thought was?
Okay, proceeded to where the body was located. Once the body was found, the position of the body, the injury or wound to the body, the position of the body in reference to the location of the Kelly residence.
Okay, let's talk about the position. So yesterday you testified that his side was facing the house. Is that what you're talking about?
The right side, yes.
Did it occur to you that this is just a bleeding wound? In other words, wasn't a hit in the brain. It was something in the right side that came out in the chest, which you later learn as you examine the body, correct?
Can you repeat that question again?
That this entrance and exit was just in the flesh. It wasn't something that would be like the brain, correct? And that he was bleeding internally, most likely. Would that be fair?
I did not see injuries to the brain, no.
Okay. Why? Is because when people are bleeding out versus being shut down completely with their brain and the stems, the spine or something that decapitated someone, did it occur to you that this person took steps, walked, was trying to go to the house maybe to get help? Did it occur to you that just because he fell down in one direction didn't mean that's how he was hit?
No, it did not.
Okay. So what in your training says that you don't take a couple steps and fall over a different way or fall backwards or walk a half a block until you can't survive anymore? What part of your training says that doesn't happen? It's not a trick question. Where have you been trained to form the opinion, I'm going to reword it, that just because he took a bullet, that he dropped in the position of where the bullet came from?
During some of the training I've received, and I believe this goes back to firearms, there's instructors who are well-trained and more experienced than I am, who have made comments during instruction that per se a training of a sniper, they get trained where they usually are trained to aim for the brain, it's our computer and will definitely stop somebody's body from any sort of movement. And there's also a comment made by instructors during training that snipers are also trained to aim for the heart, because the moment they strike the heart, there's arteries in the heart that will stop or cease movement completely. Being that I saw the body, I saw a round on the side, what I believe at that point to be an entry wound. I did believe that the round could have struck the heart, which would have completely ceased movement on the subject.
Okay, so I'm going to go out here in the well of the courtroom, and I will speak up, Judge. The sniper is out where the jurors are, okay?
Correct.
And I get shot towards my back side of my body, just like the scenario here, okay? And feeling the pain, I do this and fall down. Now my body's turned. What makes you think that could not have happened?
Again, I will be guessing. My determination was based on what I observed at the scene. I did not see anything else.
You only saw a hole pointing at a house, but you have nothing about this by itself shows that that's the direction of the shooter.
Again, based on what I observed, my belief was that the round or projectile that came and struck the decedent or victim came from the direction of the house. That was my belief based on my observations.
There was testimony from a witness that he was on the back, laying on his back. Did you move him?
Who was on his back? I'm sorry.
The decedent.
No, I did not move him, and he was face down.
Okay, just wanted to get that in. So what else formed this opinion? Moving with your other points that drew your conclusion.
Again, I based my opinion on the totality of all those points that we're hitting on, not just one of them individually. I will not make a determination based on just one of them. I added everything, and my suspicion was that the person that was deceased at the property, he died because of a homicide. At that point, that property became a crime scene. Even though the person was outside the fence line, Mr. Kelly did say that he owned acreage or different acres of that property. So at that point, we were standing on his property, which I believe needed to be seized for further investigation based on the search warrant that will later be obtained by detectives.
You know, Sergeant, I have no problem with investigation. I have no problem with you wanting to follow up. And I'm going to get to a question, I
Your Honor,
promise.
objection form.
I'll get a
Sustained,
question.
sustained.
Would you agree suspicion does not rise to the level of getting arrested? That it only arises to an investigation?
Suspicion, could you repeat that question?
The level of suspicion does not rise to arresting someone, only rises to the level of investigation.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for a legal conclusion.
All right, remember the limiting instruction I gave you a few minutes ago. This is not an instruction on what the law is. If there's any issue about what the law is now in this trial or what happened before, that would be something for me to decide.
I mean, she still said it. They still heard it. He can say all these words now. This isn't the law, but a lawyer just sat there and said it to a police officer. So the judges telling the jury this isn't the law is useless. She just said it.
Again, the limiting instruction, which I'll repeat, this is not to inform you about what the law is. This is only questions designed to obtain information from this witness about the basis for the decisions that he made.
Proceed with the answers.
Yes,
If
please.
you remember the question.
Suspicion.
So, yes, in my understanding,
Excuse me one second. So the objection's overruled. I'm sorry.
in my understanding, reasonable suspicion would allow me to detain and seize. Probable cause is what will allow me to search. That is my understanding, if that's
Okay.
the question you're asking.
Suspicion allows you to investigate. You agree with that, right?
Suspicion allows me to detain and investigate further, yes.
Okay. But it does not necessarily rise to the level of arrest or search. You need more.
Suspicion, merely suspicion, no.
Okay. So you just said your words were, and I was using yours, you had suspicion. Okay. I will agree. You had suspicion. Okay. So I'm trying to get you to,
Sustained.
sorry.
We don't need counsels, whether you agree or not.
Yes, sir.
Or your opinions, just ask questions.
Yes, sir. So I'm trying to get you to what took you to the next step that allows your department, in your mind as a supervisor, also on the scene, one of the first officers on the scene, what rises to the next level of search that happened and or arrest of Mr. Kelly and Mrs. Kelly?
So based on what happened in the decisions I made was, again, I had suspicion that a crime had been committed. At that point, I believed that I had authority to seize the property, which is detain. I never instructed to arrest Mr. Kelly. That is incorrect. I never instructed for Mr. Kelly to be arrested. Now, the probable cause to search the home, that came after, which was not determined by me.
Okay. So nothing you've observed rises to that level at this time
To the level
of search
No.
or arrest. That wasn't in your determination at the scene?
the determination was to detain and seize the property pending a search, which was not made by me. No.
Who made the decision at the scene to search and get a search warrant, get Mrs. Kelly out of the house and get a search warrant and to arrest? Whose decision?
Again, the decision was not made to search. It was made to seize the property until a search warrant was obtained later searched the property.
Okay,
No
so,
decision was made to search anyone.
okay, so you seized the property. When and who made the decision to arrest the Kellys?
The decision was made after by the Criminal Investigations Division. That's who decided what.
So do you know the name of the person?
I don't.
You don't know who did?
Again, there's a few detectives who made the decision to make the arrest. I am not aware of that.
Let's talk about, you were not there with the criminal, you said the criminal investigation part of it. You're not a crime scene investigator, is that right? You are at this time, do not have the role as a crime scene investigator. People were called to come with that, right?
Other resources were called in, yes.
Okay. Your job at this time was administrative sergeant, not a crime scene investigator, correct?
I am an investigator anytime I'm on duty, ma'am.
Okay. So then you know proper protocol and procedures of doing a crime scene, correct?
Correct.
Let's get some photos into evidence first, if you don't mind.
Oh, please be less than 10, please. That sounds like 100.
And just for the record, may I approach this witness? I'm gonna show you XX, defense XX. These are the same photos that were on the disc from yesterday, but printed. Some of them, a lot of them printed, okay? So it should be real easy. If you don't mind just flipping through each one, verifying it's the same type of photos, but now on hard copy. Keeping the order if you can.
Do you want me to go over all of them?
Look at all of them. They're all marked as one. Yeah, just flip them over so they stay. in
Your
the
Honor,
same-
can I approach to see the exhibit?
Yes.
And I would just recommend that you just turn
This one?
it.
So if I understand what the exhibit is purported to be, anyway, these are hard copy photographs of the photographs that we were presented yesterday before. the
Yes, on the disc. But there are evidence.
But they're not in the same order I observed yesterday,
Not
right?
order,
Okay.
No order. Just verify that you can identify all these photos.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember seeing this one. I don't know if this one was zoomed in. It looks different. Yeah, it looks different. Yeah, I don't recognize this batch.
Pull out what you want.
This one, I don't remember seeing it yesterday. I might have, but I don't remember. This one is doing, seems like day night. There's a shadow here. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's a lot of photos. Are we going to go through one at a time? Okay, guys, we got this. We just have to get through this part to get to the next part.
It could have been one of the dark ones.
So while they're doing that, let's go ahead and we'll talk a little bit about photographs. Just to fill the time a little bit. Photographs can be admitted into evidence. This is just in general. Does not have to be, it used to be you had to produce the person who took the photograph. You took this photograph, took it on such and such a date and time, and so forth. Well, the rules of evidence evolved and changed. Photographs can be introduced. It doesn't have to be the person who took the photograph. Anyone can look at a photograph, and if they can say this is a true and accurate representation of what I know or what I saw that day, it can come in. So for example, if I showed any one of you a photograph of one of your parents or grandparents, even though someone else took the photograph, you didn't take it, but you knew what your grandmother looked like, or you knew what your grandfather looked like at that point in time, you can lay the foundation for the admission of the photograph. All right, so with that brief, but probably largely irrelevant instruction on the law, having filled the time, looks like we're now ready to go.
And Your Honor, I just want to make sure.
When we have more
that-
time, I'll talk more about hearsay.
I just want to make sure that what we've just looked at is
Well,
actually what's getting moved to.
You can go
be-
look at it.
Marking the one you pulled off.
By the way, in that line, we're doing that, it's not a problem now, but down the road with AI, artificial intelligence, we're all really worried about that because that's going to have the capability of manufacturing a photograph that can be completely fabricated with no ability to determine whether or not that's really an accurate photograph. That artificial intelligence is going to, not there yet. Hopefully it evolves to that, when it evolves to that point in time where those kind of things happen, I will be retired and I won't have to deal with that. But it is a problem, you know, it's qualitatively different technology that can really cause a lot of problems in a courtroom, for example, because we have to be sure everything's authentic, you know. Something else to look forward to about the future.
Don't be a hater, Judge. Change is good. What's the prosecution giggling about over there? Come on, ladies.
Thank Your Honor for that brief break.
That wasn't
We get
brief.
Exhibit XX, the witness has looked at all the photos. So these accurately depict recognizable crime scene photos that you either took or assisted with concerning this case and the location of the body.
Correct.
Okay. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence Defense XX.
Your Honor, I don't have any objection to the admission of the photographs. However, some of them are of very poor quality and have strips of color throughout them. And I'm concerned that they may misrepresent the photographs. So long as the jurors have the CD so they can look at the actual digital photos, I'm not going to object. But I do have some concerns that those misrepresent.
Permission to publish, and if
Well,
there's
the,
So this camera shows images larger than this camera. So did you notice when she put her hand out, she got a little, when she put her arm out, she got her big arm and her little tiny hand going out. Watch for it because it's funny. Small hands are funny.
hold on. So
Oh.
the CD, we admitted that into evidence yesterday.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so let me just say, when you go back to the jury room at the close of the case for your deliberations, as I've said before, you'll have all the exhibits. Some of them will withhold, like the firearm and so forth, but we can make arrangements if you want to see that. But you'll have the CD. We'll set you up with a clean laptop computer, and you can look at those that were admitted yesterday. And if there are some of these, which I understand, haven't seen them, but I understand to be just hard copies of what you saw on the CD, you can look at them both. And if there's any discrepancies, you can resolve them for yourselves. So with that caveat, Exhibit XX is admitted. And you can go forward and publish to the jury.
Thank you, Judge.
Your Honor, and we've been very careful about the photographs, and I'm concerned that they're getting mixed together. Perhaps if we could staple them or something. There's lots of photos over there. I've had to sort out 3 times which ones were the witness did not indicate he was. So
Your-
I'm just concerned that we have the ones we've agreed to and that they're separated.
I have
That's why I had you step up to look.
I did, but
that's-
now she's.
I
mixing
have
them in.
folders. They're separated.
I assume you want to publish them, so I assume you're going to put them one by one.
Yes, and
So
so I don't want to staple them. I unstapled them, to be honest. So I
That's-
would like to enter some more photos, but I have them separated. Okay, so until I do that, I appreciate a little more confidence. May I approach the witness again?
All right.
Liver shots
why don't you show
fired.
them just again right now? What you're going to show right now, just flash them by Ms. Hunley. So she,
You would think, I mean, she's louder, she's more forceful, but this one, shots fired every day now. Come on, stick your arm out. Little hand.
thank you. All right, go ahead.
Let me show you defense NN. Can you identify these photos?
Are they-
Look them
are-
over.
Are these additional photos?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I
I'm
got
just trying to get them all in, then I'll start publishing.
And then,
And do these accurately depict the wallet from the deceased?
Yes.
Your Honor, no objection with the same caveat that the
But why? We've already have like 17 pictures of the same thing. Why is she admitting different, more other low quality or pictures? Why? Judge. I'm gonna call the judge up and tell him to redo this, right?
photos are not of great quality and may be misleading.
The same caveat, that means condition. Exhibit NN is admitted.
It's condescending.
But these
That
are
means
also
you're
on the CD?
talking down to them.
Yes, they are, Your Honor.
Same thing, you'll have the CD.
Could I have the evidence from yesterday brought out?
Well, which in particular?
The backpack, the wallet, all the evidence that was out here. I asked them to make sure.
She did ask.
Where is it? Is it over? Okay.
I'm just trying to get prepared before I start going to my questions.
Your Honor, I'm sure Detective Ianso would be happy to help with the evidence if you'd like.
Very well. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So let's talk about hearsay. Okay.
Doesn't she sound like a mother-in-law with her son-in-law? Oh, Betty, I'm sure Billy will help you. Billy's like, no, I won't.
You want to learn what hearsay is? Okay. And again, these are the court's rulings. I make the rulings on hearsay, but you're hearing something a lot. I assume you're kind of interested in what it is. So the official definition, legal definition of hearsay is a statement by an out-of-court declarant in court that is brought into court and offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. All right. So let's talk about, for instance, the assassination of President Kennedy, November 22nd, 1963, distant history.
What? He
Let's
was
say there's a
assassinated?
trial of Lee Harvey Oswald. He didn't get killed. He's in court. He's on trial for killing the president. I'm there and I'm testifying as a witness. Question, Mr. Fink, do you know who killed President Kennedy? Yes, I do. All right. How do you know? That's foundation, remember? How do you know? I know because my cousin was there and he told me. Well, my cousin's not an in-court declarant. He's an out-of-court declarant. And my basis for what I know is what he told me. I wasn't there. Now I'm going to say Oswald killed President Kennedy because my cousin told me, who was there supposedly and out of court, and that's offered to prove the truth that Oswald killed President Kennedy. That's hearsay because I don't have personal knowledge. The only basis for my knowledge, somebody who's an out-of-court declarant told me that's what happened, and now I'm bringing his out-of-court statement into court, offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. So that's an example of hearsay. We're still working on this. All right. Now, if it's not offered to prove the truth, then it's not hearsay. All right. So
She has great pants. Oh, it's a whole outfit.
we had some examples of that in this case. All right. So we allowed some testimony about, for example, what a law enforcement officer did and the next steps he or she took based upon an out-of-court declarant's statement. So let's say dispatch calls puts out something on the airwaves and says, Oswald killed Kennedy. All right. Go find Oswald. All right. Well, maybe Oswald did or didn't kill Kennedy, but if it's brought into court and the officer says, when I heard that, this is what I did, and that's the basis for what I did, then usually a judge will say that's admissible. It's not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted that Oswald killed Kennedy. Could be totally wrong, but it's the basis for what the officer did. So we're not offering it for the truth of the matter asserted. It's solely offered as an explanation for what the next steps that the officer took. And I think we had some of that in this particular case. So if it's not offered to prove the truth, it's offered for another reason, explain why they did what they did, then it can come in. But jurors can't consider it for the truth because it's not offered for that purpose. This is a big topic. I'm just trying to fill some time here. But just trying to keep you engaged and interested and maybe give a little
Thank you,
education about
Judge.
things that
Thank
you're
you.
hearing, on a regular basis in the courtroom. All right, are we ready to go? I'm running out of material here, so and I'm in dangerous territory. Law school is like 40 years ago.
Thank you for that interruption. Just wanted to get things in so we can move along from this point. Now, when you go to the academy, one of the major areas that you learn and rely upon currently is crime scene and crime scene protection, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in your training, and I do have the training manual if you need a refresher or anything, and it's entered, I mean, it's marked for evidence, okay? And it's the Arizona Peace Officer Standards Training Basic Curriculum Model.
I hope that she has him read a couple chapters to us. That would be great.
Lesson plan, that type of thing, okay? So I know you go back a long ways, but you have had continued education in this area, correct? Crime scene protection.
I might have, I just remember when.
So do you think you forgot everything you were supposed to do?
No,
Okay, so you do know the protocols, the training, and the procedures that's required of you at a crime scene.
yes,
Because if a crime scene is altered, it could affect someone's life, couldn't it?
yes,
I mean, people could be falsely accused, correct?
correct,
Or a real suspect could gotten away because of it, correct?
correct.
Okay, so it's very important, right? And correct?
Yes,
Okay. And so in theory, the first officer, after determining, sizing up what's going on and determining their safety is always important, right?
yes,
And then injury, if there's injury, then that would be the next important thing, correct?
yes,
If someone's hurt, then you would want to render aid, correct?
correct.
Sometimes that could affect entering a crime scene location, correct?
Yes,
Now, the crime scene location in this situation is one where there's a body, right?
yes,
Okay, and that's about 115 yards out from Mr. Kelly's house, correct? Due east.
yes.
All right. But then there's potential other areas that could have been crime scene in this case. What would they be? Where else in this area was there potentially something should be noted as a crime scene?
The area surrounding the property, the actual house, the structure.
Okay. Did you take the time to ask Mr. Kelly what happened on that first call?
No, I did not.
So you just get this information that wasn't necessarily accurate information and relied on that and did not go back to Mr. Kelly and say, tell me what happened earlier. And that led up to the officers leaving. You didn't even get that story, correct?
No, my priority was to get to the person.
Well, once you got to the person and they're deceased, your priority could have gone back to gather more information before you formed an opinion, correct?
I needed to remain with the body, man.
You dismissed another officer that was standing over the body when there and could have remained there while you gathered more information since you were more trained than the other officer, correct?
I believe that Mr. Kelly could have been interviewed by another, possibly a detective at this point. I did not feel the need to interview him there and there.
You
By
didn't
me.
feel the need.
Not by me.
Okay, but you made a pretty 5-page report, pretty detailed of your opinion that excluded the other side of the story. Correct?
I documented the facts of my observations, not opinions.
Right. But your job is to investigate. So once you have safety and, security and no medical needs, urgent needs, you're to assess the crime scene and its location, correct?
Correct.
And the only way to find out the locations of the crime scene to protect it would be to gather information, correct?
Could you repeat that question again?
The only way, after the emergency stuff is done, now your job is to go into crime scene mode, correct?
Once, like you said, once the scene is secure and everything is under control, I have time to make decisions to, do I wait? Do I gather more information at this point? I did not think speaking to Mr. Kelly at that point was a priority until detectives arrived.
So what you missed in assessing the situation was the locations of the possible crime scenes. You only focused on one location, the body, correct? Is that true, sir?
I repeat that question.
Okay.
Kind of confusing.
Your only location for a crime scene that you took the time to assess was the location of the body, correct?
It was the location surrounding the body. Again, the house, the structure was also a crime scene. However, I can only be at one place at a time. So my focus was the body at that point. Somebody else was taking care of the house.
Why would you know the house is a crime scene?
I already mentioned that I believe that the projectile that struck the decedent came from the direction of the house.
So the projectile, so now you form the opinion he did it.
I
And
said it came from the location of the house.
part of assessing a scene is to talk to witnesses at the location, correct?
Objection asked and answered, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Correct?
Repeat the question, please.
Part of assessing a situation as you roll into a situation is to, after you do all those other things we talked about, is to gather witnesses to the scene, correct?
Correct.
So you excluded him as a potential witness by not talking to him. Isn't that correct?
Again, I didn't think he was going to be interviewed by me. I knew that detectives were underway and they will conduct a more proper interview and investigation.
So had you talked to him and he told you he shot up in the air in a different direction, maybe you would have located casings on the ground by the house and you could have protected that area as a crime scene, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Compound.
Sustain. Break it down.
Break it down. Had you learned what Mr. Kelly had to say by talking to him as a witness, isn't it true you could have learned that he shot his rifle towards a different direction, he would have told you, at 5 subjects running, he would have told you, and he would have been able to tell you where he did it. Isn't that true? If you had talked to him, you could have learned that, correct?
I think we're at the same objection compound, Your Honor. There's
No, you-
multiple.
You can answer that. Overruled.
It's a long question. Repeat it, please.
Had you talked to Mr. Kelly, you would have learned that the gun that he shot in the air and that there was another location that was called a crime scene.
I will be
Objection, Your
guessing
Honor.
what his statement would have been, ma'am.
If you asked him to show you, you wouldn't have been guessing, sir. Isn't that true?
Again, I will be guessing what his response would have been.
Your job is not to be in a guessing mode, but to gather information and make notes on that information, not to interpret it completely until you have all the facts. You didn't gather those facts, so you missed out on a location that would be called a crime scene location where the casings were.
That would have been a search which I had no authority to search the property.
Sir, he would have been possibly, because you don't know, he would have showed you where he was standing if you just asked him. Isn't that
Objection-
true?
Objection, Your Honor. That is completely inappropriate.
Calls for speculation about what the defendant would have done, so sustained.
Could you have missed out on the fact that he would have told you where he was when he shot his rifle?
I would have been guessing, ma'am. That's speculation. I don't want to speculate.
Okay, guessing what, sir?
Guessing his response or his behavior after
Because
something
you,
that didn't happen.
thank
I
you,
never asked him.
because you failed to interview a witness,
I
correct?
decided not to interview.
Yes.
I decided not
That's
to interview.
good. So you decided the only thing important was to stay out in the body. And you know, Mr. Kelly is the one that took you there, correct?
Yes,
And it was starting to get dark enough that he hung a flashlight on the tree so he could make sure he could show you where that location was, correct?
correct,
He did that on his own. No one told him to do that, as far as you know, correct?
correct.
Okay. And when the willingness of you and I believe the other officer, who you said was who? Who else?
Rafael Lopez.
Okay, Officer Lopez or Deputy Lopez, You both walked out with Mr. Kelly, correct, to the location.
Yes,
Now, when you were talking to him originally, were you up close to the house?
we were close to the house, yes.
And so he had to take you around the fence lines because there is barbed wire fence between the house and where the body was located, correct?
Yes,
And he had to take you around it through the gate to get you into that area where he showed you with the flashlight and the location of the body, correct?
yes,
And that was pretty smart of him to hang that to be able to show it. I mean, right? It was helpful.
it was helpful, yes.
So he's being helpful. Correct?
Yes,
He's being forthright, but you don't ask him again what else he knows.
Objection, compound, Your Honor.
Strike that, Your Honor. But you do note the things that he does know without asking why. That one of them was, you said yesterday that he knew that the body,
Let's, interrupt this thing. It's 10 o'clock. We've been going for an hour and 15 minutes. We'll take our 30-minute mid-morning recess. We'll come back at 10:30. We'll be in recess until 10:30.
That's my judge. Stamina of a racehorse. You know, as long as the court reporter gets a break, that's all I care about.
The jury commissioner was talking to, the jurors had some questions about, compensation and needed some paperwork, excuses from work. So he took care of that.
as long as this trial's taking, their employer might forget who they are.
We have a new law in Arizona just passed. Jurors used to be paid $6 a day. I think it was $6 a day. 12? $12. Oh, okay. Excuse me. 12. Big dip. And now they're eligible for compensation for verifiable proof of lost income. So,
To a certain amount.
well, we haven't reached that issue, unfortunately.
Wow.
I don't
I'm a
think so.
server, so I would get that.
Everyone, please be seated. We're back on the record. All jurors are present, as are counsel and the defendant. The witness is coming back up to the witness stand.
Although most employers pay their employees for time off. So I guess that's not a huge population, but there's no way my employer would give me like what I would have gotten in tips. So I would be one of the ones that gets that.
Good.
Yes.
All right, thank you. You may continue with your cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I was about to ask a question, I believe, you noted that you felt it was strange that Alan, Mr. Kelly, knew the body had rigor, correct?
Yes.
Okay, which I think you go on to think, well, he must have touched the body or something or whatever. That was your concern, or the fact
Correct.
that he knew it, or what? Was
Is
it the
that two
fact?
questions or one? I'm sorry.
Was it the fact that he knew it that bothered you? That he said it,
Shots
that
fired.
the body had rigor?
It didn't bother me, no.
Okay, but you put it in the report.
Yes,
Why?
because that made me believe that he had examined the body.
Okay. If you find a person that appears to be injured or deceased and not know it, even if he did, which I don't think there's anything to say that he did, but wouldn't it be a good Samaritan to see if you need to render aid? Medical assistance.
Repeat the question.
Is there anything wrong with trying to make sure this person's dead versus alive so you can render aid if needed?
No,
Okay. I just thought it was odd that you wrote that in your report. You don't think so?
no.
Okay. Because you can look and tell sometimes. Would you agree?
Yes,
Okay, because you noted you observed rigor in the jaw. Did you? You didn't say you touched the jaw. You observed it. That means you saw it, correct?
no, I said there was rigor or rigidity in the jaw when I checked for a pulse, so I had to touch him.
In the jaw or the neck when you were touching to?
Again, I touched the neck and felt his cheek, which was cold and rigid.
Well, let's talk about your procedures as you go into the crime scene. And you remember we talked about, I mean, you do have to render aid if it's needed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you need to determine whether it is needed, right?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to kind of go break down some of the information you provided. Tell me if it's accurate. You noticed that the body was not breathing, correct?
Yes.
And you could tell because the chest rises and goes up and down if it's breathing, if you take the moment to observe, correct? Possibly.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming you could circle around the body if you were looking for a face or anything. I mean, you don't have to stand, at one point by the feet or whatever. You were looking at the body, correct?
Yes.
And the first thing you note is that the face is sunk into the dirt, correct?
Yes.
So that's where you breathe, the nose and mouth, right?
Correct.
And that seems to be buried in a sandy dirt, correct?
Yes.
And so it's sunken in, is what you said. So that makes it very difficult for someone to breathe, correct?
Correct.
And you noted that the person's right hand was tucked in front of his chest, correct?
Correct.
So how do you know, if I'm going to stand up at my chair, how do you know at that time it was tucked in towards the chest versus laying down towards the groin?
I can't explain why, but I saw it inside his body in front of his chest. If somebody's laying down, the angle back here will be very different if the person would have been touching his groin.
So you're saying, as I turn my back to you, that you could tell from this position to this position where my hand is?
Again, the way that the body was positioned and the location of his arm is not exactly as you're showing it. I can tell you that when I approached, I knew that his arm was not to his groin, was to his chest.
Now, you said you noticed blood on the right side of the person's back, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to be starting to use the Elmo. And this is coming from group already marked, Defense 00. So I'm going to show you a couple different photos from this grouping. Okay. And all I could do is show you what photos were taken. That's all I have to work with. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. But from this photo, you don't see any blood, correct?
I'm not clear, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm not clear whether we're publishing this to the jury or not yet.
Oh, this is evidence marked already?
Oh, you said it's admitted.
Yes, sir.
right.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Did I
I
say
just,
it marked? I meant to say omitted.
Good enough.
Okay, thank you for
And
checking on me.
you have that? All right.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
And everyone can see. All right, so from this position, we don't see blood, correct?
No,
In the same grouping, another photo from same exhibit. And in this photo, we don't really see blood, do we?
no,
And these two photos I just showed you is him face down, correct?
pardon me?
Those two photos I just showed you was him face down, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let me know if you can't hear me. The same in this photo, we don't see blood, correct?
No blood.
Now, isn't it true that where the blood was kind of where the fanny pack was, correct? On the right side.
The blood was on the right side of the body, yes.
And that's where the fanny pack was located, correct?
Yes,
And once you moved the fanny pack, then you could see the blood. Isn't that true?
I never moved the fanny pack.
Showing again, same exhibit, pointing out to the right side, the fanny pack. And isn't that when that blood was observed at that point in time, that Mr. Kelly's response was in identification, oh, isn't that blood in helping you locate the blood?
Not from that angle and not at that time.
How do you know he didn't mean that? Sorry, how did you know he didn't mean that? Like, there's blood. Isn't that blood? To help you locate the blood.
I don't understand your question. You're asking me to guess on his,
But you did guess
Intention.
yesterday and told us that you thought it was weird that he, having medical experience, would question the blood. Maybe it wasn't a question, but a pointing out to you where the blood was. Is that possible?
okay, but you're referring to a picture that does not relate to the moment I saw the blood, which I don't see the relation between that picture you showed me and the time he told me that there was blood on the person.
Okay, thank you for your opinion on that. So you're here to testify you didn't move the fanny pack to locate the blood.
I did not move the fanny pack to locate the blood.
So you noticing rigor and you check for a pulse, the first location was in the neck, correct?
Yes,
You did not find a pulse.
I did not.
So you got a man face down in the sand and you don't have pulse and you notice rigor in the jaw.
Yes,
And when does rigor set in?
after death.
So is it sort of fair at this point that you could believe this man was dead?
I started believing that he was dead, yes.
So you're doubting whether you had rigor or you do believe you had rigor?
There's no doubt that rigor or rigidity was starting to set in. But again, we're talking about a human life, and I just wanted to make sure that the person was not trying or unconscious and giving him a chance of maybe living. But
Okay, but if,
again, I wanted to give him an opportunity to make sure that the person was not breathing or alive. It's a human life I'm talking about.
the subject's left cheek area felt cold to touch, another confirmation that this man has already died. Is that correct?
Yes,
I also checked for a pulse in the subject's left arm.
yes,
The hands were cold to touch and no pulse was found, correct?
correct.
I tried to move the body and noticed that rigor was slightly present in the upper extremities, correct?
Your Honor, objection, improper reading of the witness's police report. He hasn't said that disagreed. If she wants to impeach him, she just needs to do it properly.
I'm just asking if this is true with the steps he went through.
Overruled. You can answer.
Go ahead, sir.
Could you repeat it again?
Yes, that you tried to move the body and noticed that rigor was slightly present in the upper extremities. Is that true?
I tried to lift the body after I checked pulse on the arm, which was the next location. I tried to check for any signs of life.
To the degree that you moved the body and also noticed a pool of blood under the person's chest and face, correct?
Yes,
Sir, do you realize that you're tampering with a crime scene?
no, I don't.
Is your crime scene investigators there at that time?
Again, at that point, I'm trying to ascertain or make sure that if the person is actually not living. My concern is this person dead? One of the reasons is because when I touched the torso or the shoulder to move him, he was still warm to the touch, which is an indication of a recent death.
Okay, the point is death. And you now confirming way back a few steps ago that this man had died. You should have, is it true? You should have backed off and just protected this crime scene.
Again, I'm trying to render aid, make sure the person is dead. Once I confirm that, I called and pronounced the person deceased, and I moved away from the person or the body at that point.
Sounds proper to me.
You notice the blood under his chest and face. That means you had to move this body in a way in order to observe that. Isn't it true?
As I testified before, it was no more than 3 inches off the ground, so I could see the left side of his chest. That was enough for me to tell that there was a pool of blood underneath him.
You also note while examining the body, I noticed what appeared to be an entry point. So, sir, we have a backpack on this man, and it was up high, but you're moving things around in order to determine an entry point, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. I think this is confusing because are you talking about the chest or are you talking about the back?
Entry point was the question.
Oh, entry point.
Just so I can clarify, your question is, did I move the backpack in order for me to see the wound on the right side of the back?
Yes.
No, I did not.
So the backpack was always located at a higher point, correct?
Yes, because I saw the hole or perforation in the fabric even before I touched the body as I approached from the right side.
And when you found the bullet hole entry wound, this is when you suspected Mr. Kelly as being the suspect to this death, correct?
I suspected that whatever struck the victim came from the direction of the Kelly residence.
So I'm going to go back to your training, okay? There was a lot of contact with confirmation at every level saying this man was dead. You would agree. You had many chances to confirm rigor, temperature, lack of breathing, lack of pulse, correct? You observed all of that, correct?
I checked for pulse, no pulse. I checked for on both neck and forearm or arm, no pulse. If you said a lot of chance is, I'm not too sure what you're trying to imply.
Well, the moment that you realized you could not render aid, your training, sir, is to back away and protect this crime scene, correct?
As soon as I pronounced the person, I backed away and
Was
did not
not,
touch him again.
it was not your job to investigate this body and turn it around and move it around.
I did not move it around or. At what point are we talking about the moment I arrived or after doing the processing of the scene?
I'm just looking at what you wrote, and so I can question you about it. And you had further examination, and you're touching and checking out the body.
Again, I was trying to make sure the person was not alive.
Okay. Yesterday you talked about the left shoulder and that you did something to that left, you touched that left shoulder.
I did
What?
touch him, yes.
Okay, explain that part of it again. I wanted to hear what you said. yesterday.
Again, the person is facing down. He's not breathing. I don't see any movement or rise in the torso or chest, or in this case, back. I am thinking this person's not breathing. Yes, I have the reporting party claiming that he's dead, but I have to make sure that that person is not only unconscious. So I check for pulse. I don't find a pulse, neck, arm. When you see a dead individual or somebody unconscious, I am not gonna stand there and say, you're probably dead. I am not gonna help you.
So what'd
I-
you do with the left shoulder?
Again, I grabbed the shoulder. I lifted the shoulder no more than 3 inches because I couldn't see his face. And as soon as I saw blood on the ground and part of his face, I let him go because at that point I said, there's no way I am gonna help him. He's dead. Was there maybe doubt between the moment I touched him to the moment I touched his shoulder? Probably. I was doubting that maybe I was not, it was cold, it was January. Maybe I'm doubting myself, maybe he's not dead. But once I saw the amount of blood and I put 2 and 2 together, again, I'm making a split-second decision here. Do I continue or do I call this a dead person?
Did you have your gloves on?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I hope so, because there's now blood, right?
Yes,
All right, and you want to protect yourself.
correct.
Do you know that, have you learned that this jacket was tested on the left side? That you might have disturbed possible DNA of someone else that might have touched that jacket? Do you understand the ramifications, how that could have hurt my client or shown someone else that might have done it?
What is the question? I'm sorry.
Did you learn that where you touched the left shoulder,
He's really good when she's rambling on. He's really, really good.
was the same spot that DNA was tested and was too weak to get a reading on it, and it could have been from you touching it? How does that,
I will be guessing. I don't know what happened with that evidence.
isn't that in your training, not to touch anything until everything is properly done?
Your Honor, objection argumentative and asked and answered repeatedly.
Overruled.
Go ahead.
Okay, which part do you want me to answer first? Again,
Did
there's
you-
multiple questions in the,
Did you learn anytime in this, up to this point, that you touching the left shoulder was the same location that DNA was tested and was possibly diluted because it couldn't be confirmed whose DNA it was?
priority of life, somebody's life takes over me considering touching somebody to see if I need to help him or not to survive. So does that answer your question? I don't know.
Yes, so, and that would be the reason why the moment you know that there is no hope of saving this person, like the rigor, like the lack of breathing, the lack of pulse, that you should have backed off and quit looking for a bullet hole in a body.
I wasn't looking for a bullet hole. I had already seen it.
You saw through a jacket, and let's get the jacket out. Maybe we approach. I get the witness to come up.
You want,
Does he
You
want
want
the
the detective
detective
to
to
help
help?
you?
She want the detective to help?
Okay. How is this proving that George Kelly did not shoot this man? Like what is the goal of this?
Is that what she's asking?
They're right here.
Do you need me to go down there?
Come on downstairs.
Just needs to say what she wants. Omar. Oh, in the stand.
And I'm going to put the rest under the table just so we can do this over the table to catch aim. Okay. Can I ask you to go ahead and open up this bag and let's take this jacket out?
Karen, could we just have the exhibit number for the record?
Exhibit 112-1.1.
That's correct.
Exhibit 112, there's a dot or a hyphen, 1.
Go ahead, lift it up and I'm going to remove the bag. All right, let's unravel it. There may be flaking, so just go slowly, let anything fall on the table. Okay, go ahead and open it. Okay. And why don't you lay it flat for a minute on the stomach down, just let's smooth it out a little bit. Now, is this the jacket that the deceased was wearing?
It appears to be yes.
Okay. And what I want you to do is, while it's laying first, identify where the bullet hole was in the jacket. Okay, now I want you to hold it up. Let's try to keep it over the table as much as possible, just to catch any debris. Okay?
Up in what position?
So the back is showing towards the jurors. Now I'm going to use the scissors as a pointer, and I'm going to first have you turn it, and I'm going to guide it right to the location and hold it up a little higher. I'm going to follow you up to show a little dot in the garment that was the entrance of the bullet hole. And I'm going to ask you, without shaking, try to walk from left to right in front of the jurors, and just let them see that location of that jacket. Just get a little bit closer. Don't shake it so we don't get any debris anywhere. And if you can point with your finger where the hole is, go for it, please. Okay, let's try to roll it up a little bit. And try to get back in the back.
You can just leave that there. He's going to get a new bag for it. Yeah, you can just leave it right there on the table. He's going to bring a new bag for it.
Okay.
Or put it underneath, whatever.
Okay. That's fine right now. All right, and go ahead and have a seat for now. We'll get fresh bloods when we need. How do you know it's a bullet hole versus a knife?
At that point, I believe it was a injury caused by a projectile. That was my belief then.
There's a lot of fraying, a lot of scraping. The jacket has other tears or defects in it. How would you know that a bullet hole went in there?
The way the jacket looks right now is not what I remember seeing when I approached the person. And the blood stain was higher towards the back. That's what caught my attention to the perforation on the jacket, which led me to believe that the injury was there. There was no way the person would have been injured in another area of their body because the blood would have not gone up because gravity will pull it down. So that area of the jacket is not illustrated in this particular point because the blood is pretty much all over the jacket at this point. But when I saw it, it was strictly in the area where the perforation was.
And in reality, we all know gravity works. You just testified to that if he was laying face down, the blood would not be going outward, upward. It would be pulling downward.
Correct.
Okay. And you probably don't know this, but most of the blood in this person remained in the body. Did you know that?
I don't.
Okay. When you roll the body over, however, then the blood, due to gravity, would have found the possible exit wound and started seeping out, causing more bleeding at that time. Would you agree?
I did not understand the question.
When you rolled the body over back on the back, and that happened later. I'm not trying to jump ahead of us yet.
Correct.
But then the hole would have provided a exit location for the blood to come out, correct?
Yes, it's a hole in the body, yes.
Well, and gravity would now allow it to seep out like a drain, correct?
I will be guessing at that point, honestly.
The possibility is that the coat gets more saturated at that time when you roll the body onto its back.
Again, I will be guessing. I
Okay.
don't know.
Well, you gave us a lot of information about gravity and everything. I thought you knew.
I'm not understanding exactly the question you're asking about the blood.
That the jacket might have absorbed more blood when it was located on the back versus when the body was on the front. Your heart's not pumping, sir, when you're dead, correct?
Correct, and that's what I'm trying to think what the question is.
If you're laying face down
Yes,
and there's no heart beating and squirting the blood upward,
correct.
then that could be a reason why the blood would stay in the body more. But when you roll it over, now there is an exit, a hole that may allow more blood to seep out and gravity would pull it down, correct?
Again, if the heart's not pumping, I don't have the expertise to say how the blood is going to come out of the body. I don't know that.
Now, at this point, you tell the deputy to take Mr. Kelly and his dogs and go back towards the house, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you remained with the body, correct?
Yes.
And that was Deputy Lopez, right?
Correct.
And once they left, you continued to walk around the immediate area without noticing anything to indicate any kind of I don't know, fighting or any kind of activity that might have happened around the body.
Correct.
Okay. So this terrain, what were you expecting to see?
The terrain, I was expecting to see maybe footprints, drag marks, other signs of people walking in the area, blood trail. If somebody's injured and it's bleeding, there could be a potential of a blood trail coming from another location. Any other articles, something that would indicate that this person was injured somewhere else and eventually died there, or anything that will indicate to me that somebody else was involved or was walking in the area.
Well, how in this terrain would you have noticed all that?
Like I said, I will be looking for footprints, foot sign, which is something that sometimes we look at when we're after individuals, following people. It's we track people by looking at the foot sign that they might leave behind.
Well, did you notice any footprints?
Not that I recall.
So there is been determined at least one, possibly more, hadn't gotten there yet, of other people that were at this location. So you didn't see their footprints. Is that what you're saying?
I don't recall seeing other footprints, no.
So if someone was there, was it your tracking ability, or was it that they probably wasn't there?
Which is the question?
That is the question. Oh, you want me to restate it?
Yes, please.
Since you were looking around for evidence of anyone else being there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we've heard testimony that there was at least one person there.
Okay.
Okay. You did not see any evidence of anyone being there.
No, I did not.
So, no other footprints, correct?
No.
So is it your tracking skills that were a problem, or was it that that person wasn't there?
Again, I did not see a footprint, so I wouldn't be able to say if someone was there or not.
She's a jerk.
And just to remind the immediate area, going to the Elmo, with the newly admitted evidence, XX. Observing the terrain in this photo, and this is before you rolled over the deceased, correct?
Correct.
We got this grassy area and sandy area, right?
Yes.
Okay. So can you tell if this grass has been stepped on or not?
Not from the picture, no.
Okay. And it doesn't take far to go before you hit grass and then dirt or sand and then more grass. It's just kind of woven together, correct?
Yes.
Who actually took these photos?
I believe it was Sergeant Alfonso Flores.
All of the photos?
Yes, he did. Well, as far as what you showed me, yes.
Another photo. You could see some grass around the head but you could see dirt going out towards the feet, correct? Or sand.
Yes.
And then from that other view, another photo. You can once again see a lot of sand around the body, openness.
Again, I have to ask, if you're a lawyer and you're just so mean and nasty like she is to this officer who is nothing but professional, everything he has done has been nothing but professional. Aren't you worried the jury's just not going to like you and then your client's going to suffer for that? I guess they're both the lawyers are, repetitive and annoying, but she's just rude.
To the body, and then also grass as you move closer to the head, correct?
Yes.
So it's not like this body is completely engulfed by this grass, right?
No.
There's openness to the body, correct?
The picture shows that, yes.
Yes, thank you. And then there's parts where the grass is higher up, like this photo here, in all fairness, correct?
Yes.
And you claimed it was almost as high as your knee?
Correct.
like maybe to your calf at least?
To my what, I'm sorry?
To your calf,
Probably to my knee, yes.
to your knee. Okay, so then why is some of the grass flatter than other parts of the grass?
I don't know the answer to that. That's nature.
But you're making an observation of whether there's someone else, any signs of struggle, anyone else being there, any other footprints, any tracking. You're looking for evidence, right?
Yes.
But you don't know.
Again, what's the question, ma'am?
Why some of this grass is flattened in other areas it's not.
I do not know.
Could be someone was there.
That's guessing. I don't know, ma'am.
You're guessing. So you don't know, correct? And we can circle around the body and some parts will be higher up and some parts will be lower, correct? As far as the grass level.
Are we talking about the height of the grass or the grass actually being stepped on? That's two different things.
If it's squished, it'll be flattened or lower. If it's not been disturbed, it might be higher.
Correct, yes.
Signs of whether something trampled on that area, possibly, right?
Yes,
Signs, but it's not a sure thing, correct?
correct.
You're not a tracking expert, are you?
No, I'm not.
Been to tracking school?
No.
Did you think to call the Border Patrol out to and use some of their tracking abilities, like dogs, like trained agents that might help you locate?
That's a decision that should have been made by whoever responded to process the scene.
But you call people. You asked for people, the types of people. You testified to that a little earlier, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Now, with the fact that you knew there was something happened earlier that you didn't have a lot of knowledge but was aware of, right? That earlier call.
correct.
And now, hours later, you have another call and a deceased body, correct?
Yes,
Did you think to ask for the medical examiner investigators to get out there and determine a real time of death earlier or later?
not within the few minutes that I had to make the decision. That could have been made after. That was not the time for me to make the decision to do
Well,
that.
sir, you noted that Mr. Kelly came up with explanations trying to assist you, or explanations, I think you believe he was trying to defend himself. I don't know.
Objection.
He was trying to tell you that the police were out there already earlier and looked at this area, correct? That sheriffs were out there earlier, correct?
They were out there earlier, yes.
And that this place was already checked and there was no body, so it must have happened later. Isn't that what he told you?
That's what he said, yes.
So now we have a timeline issue. Don't you think you could have got a medical examiner out there to investigate the time of death so we would know if it was earlier or later?
Again, that's a decision that the investigators would have made after the fact.
Sir, the quicker you get them out there, the sooner that someone could get there and observe the environment and the body and the state it was in decomposing. Agree? Do you agree that would be important?
It's important, yes.
And do you agree, as a sergeant, you are a supervisor out there and also can supervise over detectives?
Correct, but detectives have their own supervisor, which I have the professional courtesy of allowing him to make the decisions that he has to make.
So, but they take longer to get there, sir. Correct?
At that point, the scene was under control and secure. So again, that was not my decision to make.
Right, or didn't choose to make that decision for the investigation, correct?
That was someone else's decision to make, ma'am.
I don't understand what her point
This is
here.
still coming
Like a train wreck.
from defendants XX. I'm going to publish another photo.
So there's so much that she could have objected to during that. Do you think she didn't because she's burying herself with her questions? Do you think she didn't object to let her just go on? I would have.
Okay. It's true. What we're looking at is the deceased face down as you saw it, correct?
Correct.
And I'm going to also show a close-up that's coming out of Defense Exhibit SS, I think. And I'm going to show you the first one in the stapled grouping. Can you see that, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I would like to direct you to the baseball cap on this person, correct? And I'm going to ask that you step down and get some more gloves on. Let's take a look at that cap. Please. I want to imagine the cap is in this big bag, so let's see if we can pull it out. If you can locate that cap.
Detective Ianza is getting nervous.
This is the same cap, it says California, the one that he had on his head, correct?
It's a black cap. I couldn't read anything from the picture.
Is there another cap in there?
No.
Permission to walk by the jurors with this cap?
I hope they scowl at her.
of dirty on the inside of the bill, right, underneath?
Advisory, you mean?
Yeah, the visor.
Yes.
Seems to reflect the terrain that you would find out in the desert, correct?
Yes.
Okay, while we have gloves on, I'm gonna come back to the cap, but it'll save us some trips with the gloves. Let's, open up the, let's get the fanny pack out. And hold it up. And point to the location that the buckle is no longer there. Is that a buckle?
Yes.
And does it appear to you as you look at it to be broken?
Yes.
And let me publish it to the jurors. Now, isn't it possible that someone tried to grab this off the person and busted the buckle?
I will be guessing.
It's possible though, right?
I will be guessing. I don't want to speculate.
Because a fanny pack is only as good as it being worn to protect your valuables that would be inside of it, right?
Correct.
We wear fanny packs. And this court has seen one picture where the subject was known to have it on the chest, okay? And you didn't see that photo, have you?
No.
Okay. But another
Your Honor,
way-
and objection, it states facts, not in evidence. Hasn't been
Do you have a
admitted.
photo?
Hasn't been admitted.
Photo was made.
Okay, maybe I just don't recall. I apologize.
And another way to wear it for some people would be the old fashioned way. Because I think young people like to wear it up on the chest, but it goes around the waist. You've seen both ways?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
And Your Honor, can we just clarify that photo is the one that we have no idea when or where it was? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
We said we would update, we'd get the data.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this has one zipper, and then items can be placed in there, correct?
Yes.
And did you notice that this fanny pack was half full? Let me find you a photo. I'll get back to that. Let me get the gloves off before I do that. So you don't remember that?
There was items in the fanny pack. Yes.
But they were on one side and not on the other side. Did you notice that?
I don't recall the exact position inside the pack.
Okay, let's pull out the backpack. Now, the deceased, how does his body frame compare to yours?
I don't recall. It was probably about 200 pounds. Again, I will be guessing. I don't recall exactly the size.
All right, and I'm gonna ask you to step out here. I'm not gonna touch you. But I do want you to put your back towards the jurors. If and when this backpack was properly worn, I'm just putting it up against your body so they can compare how this backpack would cover the backside of you, okay? And so would you say your body was not out of proportion to his? Was he shorter than you? Did you notice?
I don't recall with this high or
Okay. Now, we're also gonna hold it up.
Your Honor, and just for the record, I'm not sure
Yeah,
the
we
jury
didn't
can
need the
hear
wit-
that.
we need
The
the witness
witness had his back to the jury.
Right, I noticed that.
Okay.
You can have his back to the jury, but he's got to
Yeah,
speak
we
into the
gotta have him
microphone.
on.
Do you need me back there?
Right now, you can be right there, it's fine.
You can move the microphone wherever you want.
And it come off the racket.
I just don't want to touch it with.
Right, leave it there. Okay. And I'm gonna point out a waistband on this backpack, correct? And he's one right there. Is that correct?
Yes.
But that's not what you cut. You cut the shoulder straps. Both of them?
Yes.
Okay, pointing it out to the jurors now. Now, there were clothes in this backpack. And yet, it was pulled up over the head or above the head or covering the head as you found it, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. It's a compound question. It assumes that somebody moved it and also asks how he found it. It's a compound question.
I didn't assume anyone moved it.
She said moved. I just want, it's
Backpack-
compound.
I'll reword it. The backpack normally lies in the center of your back, right? Coming off your shoulders, the straps, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But to get at a higher, why don't you come back out and grab your, no, don't grab it. Let's grab the whole pole.
I'll try to speak louder. Is that okay? Or
Just let me know if you have problems hearing.
And turn sideways, look at the court, look at the judge. So I'm gonna place a normal positioning without touching you, so give or take a few inches, that most people carry a backpack accordingly, and you got an idea what I'm doing with it, don't you? You wanna
yes.
put it on my back where you think, here, take the backpack, and I will turn and put, if I had it over my shoulders, where would that backpack be? Okay, now rise it to the level as you found it, approximately. Okay, now if a waist strap was on, that wouldn't get there, would it? If this waist strap was on his waistline, that wouldn't have gone up that high, would it? Likelihood would be no, right? Let's assume it's not on, okay? And so when you fall with this somehow had to go up and over. So I'm gonna ask you, is there a top strap? Let's zip it up. Like most backpacks have, what would you call this strap at the top?
I'm not too sure.
Okay, what would you call it? Okay, a loop, a strap with a loop. How's that? Okay. And if someone tried to tug at this backpack with this strap, that could pull it up to over the head, couldn't it?
If someone pulls it,
Yes.
it could.
Okay. Now, let's see if I need anything else up here. Before I move backwards, let's go to, well, we have gloves. Go out of order just a little bit. Could you go ahead and open up the, what does it mark?
State Exhibit 79.
And what is it?
It's a wallet, brown wallet.
Okay, can you open it up? Okay. And is there money in there?
Yes.
Could you take it out? Take it out of the wallet. And could you count the total of the amount of, first of all, what kind of bills is it?
It's a Mexican currency.
Okay. Could you count the total of those bills? How many bills are there?
Okay.
You put the wallet down.
6 different bills in different denominations.
Pick up a little louder.
6 different bills in different denominations.
Okay, could you total it for me?
$1,640 pesos, Mexican pesos.
Sounds like a lot, but if you divide it by the appropriate rate, we would get something probably about under $100. Would you agree? Do you know
Depending
anything?
on the rate. I don't know.
Okay, but you're somewhat familiar with pesos, right?
Correct.
And every day that rate changes.
Yes.
So I'm gonna sum it up as something under 100. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
Okay. Now, where's the American currency?
I will have to check the wallet.
Go ahead, Chip.
There's no American currency as far as I can.
So if someone wanted to come over here to work and they were Mexican national, how would they exchange the money? How would they take their less than $100 and put it into American currency? They wouldn't have ID to do it, would they? They couldn't go to a bank without proper ID, correct?
They couldn't, but it's not uncommon to see this.
Well, and someone wants to buy it off of them, but in America, you need American currency, right?
Yes.
Okay, even in Nogales, if I went to a convenience store, do I pay them in pesos or do I pay them in dollars?
I will be guessing because I know there were some stores at one point that were accepting pesos, so I don't know.
Okay. If you go to Phoenix to do roofing, you can have a seat. Thanks. Would you,
I'm sorry, but could you put the currency back in the wallet before you walk away?
I guess,
Your Honor, could the detective just grab the wallet out of the middle of the bag with the backpack, just so we've got it secured appropriately? Would that be all right with the court?
I don't understand what you're talking about.
We're like mixing two exhibits together there. I'm just a little concerned about the handling. Could we have the detective just gather that exhibit and take it to the side?
Well,
wait till.
yeah, leave it here and we won't touch it anymore. And at the break, you can do what needs to be done.
All right, we're gonna go back to what's still being published on the board, which is the decedent's head with the cap on his head. And I'm gonna go back to the original photo here that I showed first for a second, I don't know. And I want you to notice the cap, sir. Do you see how the cap is buckled down? Kind of
Yes.
under the forehead. So if I grabbed this backpack and pulled on it, could that cause the hat to come up with this deformity of look?
Again, I will be guessing, ma'am.
But your job is to investigate all possibilities. Correct?
My job is to investigate, yes.
Yes, and make note, like of signs of, because you said you were looking for anyone else being there. Maybe he was robbed. Have you considered that?
I will be guessing, ma'am.
Wait, sir, your job is to write down all possibilities and investigate, not sit there and defend yourself for why you didn't investigate.
Objection argumentative.
Sustained.
The fact that the zipper's open, the fanny pack is torn off of him on his, or put on the side and off of his body with a broken buckle. And isn't that a possible sign of robbery?
That was not my opinion then, ma'am.
In defense 55 already admitted evidence. Let me show you the fanny pack that as you open it appears to be half empty.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify the record. Did you say Defense Exhibit 35?
$55 is what I said. 55.
State's Exhibit or Defense Exhibit?
Defense Exhibit 55, or is that SS? That's probably SS, I'm sorry. I have to read writing. SS marked -K. Okay, sorry. I didn't read that right. Notice this fanny pack as you unzipped it. Something on the left, the right of our screen, and this side of it, there's nothing there. Do you know that there could have been a wad of $20 bills there rolled up?
I will be guessing as the contents. I don't know that.
Robberies fall within the scope of law enforcement, doesn't it?
Yes.
Looking at 00, defense 00, not zeros. A picture of the decedent's hand grasping at a straw, which is, or the grass terrain that's out there. Looked like somehow this hand clenched it as prior to getting into death and rigor, correct?
His hand, yeah, is half clenched, yes.
We see grass all around it and this straw-like, grass-like material in his palm sticking out through his fingers, right?
Yes.
We see the hand cupped. Here's another one. Observed in another photo in that same evidence grouping. Correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, is that an autopsy photo?
Hmm?
Is that an autopsy photo?
No? Oh, yeah, but it's been admitted.
Okay, okay.
And this could be found in your crime scene photos.
It's not in the crime scene photos, just to
No,
clarify for the
This is
record.
the first time I ever see those pictures.
Okay. And so you never noticed that he had all this grass in his hand? Then when you were at the scene?
There was grass, I just don't recall this picture.
Okay, I didn't ask if this was your photo. It's already admitted.
Right.
I'm just asking you to look at it. I could find some more photos, but this is a photo been admitted already into evidence. Do you see the grass material in his hand as if he's kind of clenching onto this grass that is found out in this terrain?
I do see it, yes.
Could that also be indicative of being dragged and grabbing onto grass?
Again, that will be guessing. I don't want to speculate on what happened.
Here's the last photo in that same grouping, and his hands are definitely cupped in this position, correct?
Yes.
And we don't walk around with grass in between our fingers, right?
I wouldn't.
Not between the middle and the ring finger. That's an awkward place, isn't it?
I don't know, ma'am.
You don't think the grass just fell in it, do you?
Again, I will be guessing how the grass got to the hand.
But normally, does grass fall into the fingers like that?
Again, I don't know how the grass got there. I don't want to guess how.
No. Did you note it in your report, in your observations?
No, I don't think I
Did
did.
you note the buckle that was broken?
I don't remember seeing it.
Did you note that this backpack was over the head, indicative possibly of being dragged or robbed?
That was,
Objection compound, Your Honor. She
Want
indicated,
to break it down? Yeah, break it down.
Indicative of being dragged?
that wasn't my belief at that point when I saw the person.
Or robbed?
No, that was not my belief either.
But you didn't note it in your report, is the question.
I didn't note what, I'm sorry.
You didn't note these observations in your report, did you?
No, I did not.
And you didn't note the unzipped bag of the deceased, did you?
No, I didn't.
And had you talked to Mr. Kelly and learned about the one shot that was fired, you didn't do anything in this investigation under your watch to try to solve where that one shot came from, did you?
Not during the time I was there, no.
And you noticed the walkie-talkie, didn't you?
The radio, yes.
I'm sorry, that's old-fashioned. The radio, more high-powered than a walkie-talkie.
Yes, I did see it.
Okay, so it wasn't a toy. It was a real radio.
It looked like a real radio, yes.
And that, along with the coloring of the clothing, the fact that you know he was not a legal citizen, the backpack, the fanny pack, all these items was not suspicious in your mind that this could have been someone like a mule or someone that was either carrying or items that were illegal?
Objection, form of the question?
I don't understand the
Oh.
question.
You did not, did you consider the fact, just a second. Couldn't got that. Did you not think or draw any conclusions based on the clothing and the items on this person that this could have been a smuggler?
I wasn't investigating a smuggling or a citizenship crime at this point.
Sir, all facts are important. Wouldn't you agree? All facts are important in order to get to the right answer, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You can't go into a homicide investigation blinded. Would you agree? You don't have enough information right now to know the answer, do you?
I don't.
Okay, and so you got to gather information and make note of it and pass that on to the detectives so a proper investigation could happen. Wouldn't you agree?
The detectives would have done their own investigation and come up with more evidence, more factual evidence after I leave. I was just the first responder there.
You don't know that detectives rely on your notes, your reports, your investigation to help them get to some of these possibilities?
They do. They rely
Okay.
on some of the information.
It starts with the first officers at a scene, what they saw, correct?
Correct.
Who they talked to, what they said, correct?
Correct.
What physical evidence was around, correct?
Yes.
Your job, being one of the first officers to respond to the scene, was to help gather this information and document, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. That would be in your training manual, correct?
Correct.
I wonder if she's married.
You also noticed Mr. Kelly's 2 Labradors, right?
Correct.
And in all fairness, when he walked out with you to show you the body, those dogs followed, didn't they?
Yes.
And matter of fact, they were all over there smelling the body, weren't they?
They were in the area, yes.
Well, they were right there where the body was too, weren't they? They were smelling on the body.
When they were smelling the area, I couldn't tell that the body was there. I couldn't see the body. I saw the dogs walking around in the area.
And sir, that's allowing something to tamper with a crime scene, isn't it?
Again, at that point, I did not know the body was there. Dogs, again, I did not see the body. I saw the dogs walking around. I couldn't see the body at that point.
I already did that. Just a minute, Your Honor. I need to check my notes where I'm at. And let's see. So when you sent Mr. Kelly away and the dogs, you also requested a firearms canine, correct? To at least be placed on standby?
Correct.
And at this point, you also asked Deputy Lopez to obtain the handgun that was on Mr. Kelly, correct?
After they had left, yes.
Yes, while they went closer towards the house, correct? Or by the trailer?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you remember that you asked Mr. Kelly, are you comfortable or something about do you feel like you need your gun?
I do remember asking, yes.
Yes. And what didn't he let you know that he needed the gun? He was very uncomfortable without it because of the dangers that existed on that property?
Yes.
Okay. So that was real to him, right? That this could be a dangerous area and that's why he needed a gun.
Again, that's something that he will probably have to answer.
But you noted it, didn't you?
Yes, he did mention that he was not comfortable walking around with a firearm.
But again, he was cooperative and put it up, and then later you all confiscated that, correct?
Yes.
Because of the dead body being shot, correct?
And you broadcasted through your radio to Sergeant Garcia, correct?
Yes.
To make contact with whoever was inside the house and get them out,
Correct.
right? Because you wanted to protect the house for some reason as a crime scene.
Correct.
But to your knowledge, was there ever any shooting or anything in the house that you learned at this time?
Inside the house?
Yes.
No.
And that you noted that Mrs. Kelly was escorted out and the residence was secured until you can get the search warrant.
That's the information I received on the radio from Sergeant Garcia and Deputy Norsagaray.
And because the reason why you needed a K9 was in case you needed to locate any firearms or shell casings, right?
Correct.
Now, you said you proceeded to Sergeant Flores's location. Where was that? Back by the house?
Back by the horse trailer, that's where I met him.
And then you assisted at that time with photographs and moved the bodies, right?
Correct.
And that's when you cut the straps to the backpack.
Yes.
And as far as the cans of tuna, which for some reason is not available, there were 2 cans according to that photograph, right?
Can you repeat the question, ma'am?
There were 2 cans of tuna in the
I
bag.
did not count the cans.
Isn't it?
And
your
so
job?
you two start peeling
count
off the
cans of
clothing
tuna?
and turning the body around and start taking photographs, correct?
Yes.
And so, and this officer that's taking the photographs, is he crime scene?
He's the detective sergeant for the Criminal Investigations Division for the Sheriff's Office.
So that would be a yes answer, right? That's his job skill, to go to a crime scene and document it.
Yes.
And you were happy to be back on the road. Is that why you were just a little bit overzealous about this?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
You noted that you were happy to do, what was that program that you got to do before coming to the scene?
That I was happy to do what program? I don't understand.
Stone Guard.
I was working Operation Stone Garden, yes. That's
You
the
were-
name of the grant.
And you were glad to get into patrol. You said you were happy to be able to get back there because what you were doing is a little more administrative, correct?
I never said that, no.
You never said that?
No.
Just looking over my notes, Judge.
No problem.
Did you at all talk with Mrs. Kelly?
No, I didn't.
Do you have any idea why she was placed inside of a squad car and taken to the station?
I will assume because of the cold weather. It was January 30th and it was late at night.
So you can speculate to some things?
Again, I do remember Sergeant Garcia mentioning that she was placed in the car because of the weather.
But driven to the police station? Did anyone ask if she wanted to go?
That reason, I don't know why she went to the police station.
And the back doors of a car, a patrol car, are locked from the inside? You can't get out, correct?
Are you asking me if the cars are locked?
Yeah, automatically.
They are, yes.
Did you ask if she wanted to sit in her car?
No, I didn't ask that.
You made a note that the items, the tuna cans inside the backpack, were consistent with migrants. So I'm going to go back to this. Do migrants usually carry radios?
I've seen migrants carry radios, yes.
How about migrants carrying telephones, cell phones?
It is common, yes.
Yeah. Radios are not usually a common item in a person's belongings, is it?
Depends on what they're doing, ma'am. I don't know.
Do migrants always wear camouflaged clothing?
It is common for most of them to be wearing that, yes.
Do migrants go through the terrain into people's private property on a regular basis?
Yes, they could.
And so to have these people, if they had rifles, would that have changed your tone of whether they were a migrant or a trafficker?
I don't understand the question about the rifle.
If you learn that there were rifles, are rifles regularly stolen off of people? Guns are stolen from people?
Generally, yes. Some
Guns have value.
Yes.
And if you're in the underworld, guns are valuable, correct? Something they would want, correct?
Again, I will be guessing. I don't work in the underworld.
All right,
You-
we're going to take our noon recess. Is that all right with you?
Yes.
Thank you. Because almost noon, we'll take a noon recess. We'll reconvene at 1:30. We'll continue with, if there's more cross-examination, then there'll be a redirect examination. We'll have a regular schedule today. We'll be in recess until 1:30. Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't take much more of that freaking attorney anyway. Seriously. My blood was boiling. She is just I just like I think she really does understand that his job was he was first responder. He's not the entire investigative team of everybody. I think she knows that. I don't and I think the jury knows that. So I don't understand. I don't get it. Now, I didn't go to law school, so maybe she knows something that I don't know about, you know, criminal defense. I know she has to plant doubt, but she's not planting doubt. She's just acting like an ass. Anyway, we are cooking. We are done with day something. We just did day 9. Ha, we're almost at day 10. That's when the numbers start to go up for viewers. So I'm guessing Kelly gets on the stand. I don't know. Maybe he's on there for a while. I don't know. I don't know. I just hope the professionals are done soon. I want to get a trial with no expert witnesses. Just just a whole bunch of witnesses. Maybe like from Georgia, Alabama, where they have a great accent, or a nice Kentucky trial with all witnesses. Oh my gosh. That would be too much for me. That would be too much. That would be so fun. Anyway, thanks for coming out and pop this video. I popped yesterday AM up. Now, this takes a while to process. So I'm gonna Judge Fleischer's court was about to open, but try to get the next one up today, and this one too if I can, and maybe make another one today. I got big plans so that we can get to the end of this trial. Fingers crossed. Thank you for coming out, guys. I really appreciate it so much. I hope you guys have a great day and behave. Bye, guys.